Hey guys, it's John, and welcome back to another episode of Childhood Cringe, the series in which I read stories that I wrote as a child and we laugh at how terrible they are. Today's story is actually the first horror one that I wrote, and it is titled Rage. And as you can see at the top there, it's rated X, or rather, Raid at X. I'm not sure what I thought qualified me as a 7-year-old child to write a piece of literature that is not for children, but I just thought this was so scary. It was so extreme. Children shouldn't read it. So just bear that in mind. Also, of course, at the top, I continued the tradition, or rather started the tradition, of placing R.L. Stine's name against his will at the top of all my stories, thereby associating him with my literature. So the reason I know this is the first one in the series, despite it being numbered number 4, is because the format's very different. I didn't use the drippy letters yet. It's just chapter 1. It's written horizontally, which is something that I did earlier, like at the age of 6, early 7. So I know this is the first one that I wrote. It actually has a dangerous monster in it, and it has tons of action. So it's a far contrast to the one that we read earlier in the week. And I know that I'm spacing these videos together pretty close, but that's because we're going to be doing a lot of gaming videos next week, so I didn't want it to be too long before the next in the series since everyone seemed to enjoy the first one so much. Now, why is it called Rage? I have no idea. I don't actually remember much about it except for what the monster is, so let's go ahead and get into it. Rage by John Wolfe and R.L. Stine. My name is John. It's autobiographical. I live in Dallas, parentheses, with a funny brother, Texas. That's actually the full title of Dallas, little known fact. Dallas with a funny brother, Texas. One night, something weird happened. What time is it? I asked. 7:02, answered Dad. Bedtime. Why not just say 7 o'clock? I guess I was interested in accuracy. 7:02. The stupid clock is fast, complained Jed. It reeks anyway. Jed, scolded Mom, apologize to your father. Okay, first of all, Mom, I think all 3 of those insults were against the clock, not Dad. The clock is stupid, fast, and apparently smells bad. It reeks. So I'm not sure why Jed has to apologize to his father, but I'm guessing that Jed is my funny brother in this story. Sorry, he smirked. Later we went to bed. Jed was so obnoxious. You reek, he said for no reason. Man, Jed is like a one-note comedian. And he probably didn't say it for no reason. John, you probably need to take a bath. Probably should get that checked out. In the middle of the night, I woke up. I heard whispering outside. Jed, I asked. This isn't funny. Jed said, can't we get some sleep tonight? We're waking up like babies. I ignored him and went to the window. I looked out there. Were ... ghosts. End of chapter. So that's the shortest chapter of all time. Also, it's a cliffhanger, so what do you want to bet they're not ghosts? Let's find out. Chapter 2. I covered my mouth. I tiptoed toward the hall. I went to the 2nd floor. My parents weren't there. I looked behind me. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Dun dun dun. I opened the window. I jumped, into our thorn bushes. Ow. I peeked out. The ghosts weren't there. It's all over, I told myself. That was quick. I looked behind me and saw ... End of chapter. Wow, these chapters are really, really short. This is also how I can tell it's earlier than the monster, actually. Chapter 3. And then this is, okay, down here I said over. Check it out. Okay, if you can see it. See, chapter 3, over, indicating that it is on the next page. Oh my God, there's drawings. I did not know that. Okay. Jed with a flashlight. No verb in that sentence. Are you okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Then we both screamed. 2 pumpkins started to walk. We hid behind a corner. The pumpkin crawled through the window. Me and Jed took a step closer. The pumpkin looked back. We darted. Darted where? The pumpkin had a human body and a pumpkin head. He climbed through the window. As soon as he went down the basement, we went in. Jed didn't turn on his flashlight because he knew it would be a warning to the monster. Very smart, Jed. Monsters can see, maybe. We crawled through the basement. We heard a loud roar. Okay, before we go any further, I have to show you the drawing. I didn't want to show it to you before because it would spoil what would happen, but there's the pumpkin head. There's Jed and I around the corner as the pumpkin head is climbing inside the living room. You can see the lamp on the desk right there. And there are the thorn bushes. So, yep. Me and Jed began to... Are there any more drawings? I really gotta know. Me and Jed began to shiver. Was it cold? Were you scared? There's no explanation. We hunted for Mom and Dad. We looked in the garage. Our car wasn't there. We saw some car trail marks. Did their parents just abandon them? We got on our bikes and followed them. We went to the driveway. The pumpkin saw us and roared. I was shivering all around. You mean all over? Or like you went to different parts of the house and shivered in all those places. Shivering all around. Shivering all around, shivering all around, da 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 da. We went on and on. What does that mean? We went on and on. Then we looked behind our bikes and ... Okay, these cliffhangers are substantially worse than the ones that we saw in the previous story. Chapter 4. We saw an angry and disappointed Mom and Dad. We explained the whole thing again. Mom and Dad were very strict. They made me and Jed in our room for a week. We were grounded. Well, then who took the car? No one's concerned about the car trail marks, the car being missing? Someone stole the car. Mom and Dad need to be upset about that. They need to conduct an investigation. The next night, we went out the window again. Well, then you're not really that grounded, are you, if you can just sneak out the window? We saw the pumpkin go a different way. Unto the forest. Okay. Let him go into the forest. Who gives a shit? Me and Jed followed him. It sounds like you guys are just asking for trouble. Soon we were deep in the forest. We saw the pumpkin roar on a big hill. I was so scared, I holded my breath. Jed's heart started to pound. How do you know that? Wouldn't Jed be the only one able to detect that his heart started to pound? Can you hear Jed's heart? How close are you guys together? Oh my god, I did this again. Jed's heart started to pound. Period. Fast. Period. Oh man, I liked doing stuff like that. We both screamed and raced towards home. We never felt so scared in our life. Well, we managed to get home safely. Okay, so the pumpkin crawls into a forest, roars on top of a hill, and then you run home. Very eventful night. In the morning, we gobbled up our breakfast and went outside. I think it's worth noting at this point that in my stories, I had an unhealthy fixation with eating breakfast. For some reason, I considered it like the ultimate meal, and I mentioned it all the time. I never mentioned the characters eating dinner or lunch, really. But they eat breakfast every day. It's the most important meal of the day. Milk's very good for you. That was pounded into my head as a kid, so I guess that's why. I also really like sugary cereals. We saw a pumpkin that we could put in the trash. What? In the night, the pumpkin was gone. Okay, so what? We just had a roller coaster ride of a 3-sentence paragraph right there. Okay, in the morning, we gobbled up our breakfast and went outside. We saw a pumpkin that we could put in the trash. In the night, the pumpkin was gone. So, Basically, if I was a better writer at the age of 7, we would have more details here. Basically, what happened was they went outside. They saw the pumpkin. They were like, we'll put a stop to this. They put the pumpkin in the trash. They didn't destroy it or anything. They didn't smash it. They didn't set it on fire. They didn't do anything destructive to it. They just placed it in the trash can where it was going to grow legs and crawl out anyway. Stupid kids. And in the night, they went back out there and the pumpkin was discovered gone. That's the recap. Great, I upsetly said. I saw the footmarks he'd left behind. The footmarks, the footprints, I guess. I called Jed. When we stepped out, we saw a sign that said, and I illustrated it, "Don't follow me this time or else." Here's the illustrated sign. Come on, camera. Come on, stay with me, camera. Stop autofocusing. Don't follow me this time or else. Very ominous. In big sloppy letters, Jed said we should stay in the house. Well, I'm going, I insisted. Oh, right, said Jed, shaking. I think I meant, oh, all right here. I didn't know what the word all right was, apparently. We came to a big tree. The pumpkin jumped down. You should have accepted my warning, he said. Now you'll pay. The pumpkin can talk. He knocked me down on the ground. We raced toward our home. Mom and Dad were there. They saw the pumpkin and locked all the windows and doors. Even the back door. Wow, they were thorough. That was close, Jed said. Then we heard a creak in the attic. We forgot the pumpkin opened the attic door. You know, the attic door on the roof. Wait, the pumpkin opened the attic door. We closed it. We slept peacefully that night. What? You're not at all concerned about the bipedal, conscious pumpkin head monster that said that you were going to pay? Mom and Dad just don't care at all. In the morning, oh my God. In the morning, the trasher came. Rumble, rumble, went the garbage truck. You know what it's called. Why'd you call it the trasher? I guess I meant the garbage man. I quickly went out of bed. Through the breakfast table, I got the pumpkin and ran after the truck. Ooh, good idea. I catched up, holding on to the bumper in the back. I put the pumpkin in. Okay, so he put the pumpkin into the garbage truck to be compacted. All is well, I thought. I bent down. My toe touched the road. My toe sparked a little. How fast is this truck going? Wow, your toe sparked. Jed came out running. He caught on too. Well, it can't be going that fast then. He climbed to the side of the dump truck. Suddenly, the pumpkin arised. Ah, I yelled. Grrr, went the pumpkin. Grrr, roar. I climbed with my brother. Jed and I climbed to the door. What door? What? I think I had something going on in my head that I just can't translate. Jed and I climbed to the door. Jed screamed as loud as he could. Stop! The driver pushed the brake. The brake was broken. What? What? The brake was broken? How fast is this garbage truck going? This is like Speed or something with Keanu Reeves. Like, that's a major, like, safety hazard. How is it not? What caused that? Maybe the pumpkin supernaturally caused it to happen. I'm just gonna go with that. There's no way for you to win. Be my slave. I think this is why I decided to rate it X, because slavery was a theme. No, I shouted. Yes, said the pumpkin. You do what I say. No, I cried. Then with a great kick, the pumpkin fell down on the road and broke his head. So you just kicked him off the garbage truck and he smashed his head on the road? And that's it? Phew, I said. Then the truck flipped up in the air and came down with a crash. Luckily, the driver was okay. I was okay. Jed was okay. Great! The garbage truck. So you're telling me a garbage truck that you were inside of flipped up in the air, like spiraled through the air and came down and everyone was fine. We heard it on the news. And that's what happened. And back to you, Bill. The end. That's exactly how it ends. That's what happened. And back to you, Bill. Oh. So that was the roller coaster ride that was my first horror story. That was the first one I ever wrote. It's heavily inspired by 2 different Goosebump books, of course. I believe there's one called, it's either Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns or Night of the Jack-O-Lanterns. And there's one called Night of the Living Dummy that's also inspired. This was inspired by. In fact, hang on. Okay, here it is. Goosebumps number 48, Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns. This is exactly what I had in mind when I wrote this. So, I mean, you see, that's exactly what the pumpkin head thing is supposed to look like. However, it's very different from this, to be honest. So, as if that weren't enough, I did write a sequel. Rage 2. This one, however, is number 45 in the series, and it is typed. So I'm very excited to hear what happened to our heroes, John, Jed, and the Pumpkinhead, which would have been a much better name for the series overall, I think. Chapter 1. I felt better that the pumpkin was gone, but one night something even stranger happened. Even stranger than a pumpkin growing legs and arms, telling you that he wants you to be his slave, and getting kicked off a garbage truck that flipped into the air and smashing his head on the concrete street. It's something even weirder happened. It all started at lunchtime. Wow, I mentioned lunch. First time. Mom, I said, when are you going to get the baby out? Soon, answered Mom. Yes, that's all she answered. What, are you disappointed? She can't give you an exact date? What a stupid kid. When are you gonna get the baby out? Like, come on, time's ticking. Tapping my foot. Come on, let's speed this up. Mom is 38 years old. I'm 14. I was not 14. Jed is 17. Dad is 63. Dad is 25 years older than Mom, apparently. And that's not weird. Good. And there's also 14 years in between us and the baby, which, like, people do that, I guess. Tomorrow is Mom's birthday. At 1993, we had a party at Leaps and Bounds. Oh, Leaps and Bounds. Discovery Zone, for those that don't know. Leaps and Bounds was the competitor to Discovery Zone owned by McDonald's in the 90s. It was a place where you could jump into ball pits, slide down slides, crawl around in these like plastic tubes. It was awesome. Google image search that. If you don't know what Leaps and Bounds or Discovery Zone are, it's like childhood paradise for me. Anyway, in 1994, we had a party at, oh my God, that's an unfortunate typo. So it's supposed to be Chuck E. Cheese's, but I spelled it Cuck E. Cheese's. Oh my God. That's too good. Cuck E. Cheese's. Oh. In 1994, we had a party at Cuck E. Cheese's. I regret reading this already. Last year, we had a Halloween party, which was when the pumpkin came. You did not mention a Halloween party at all in the first one. This year, we are going to have a Halloween party again. It's a family tradition because in 1942 to 1961, Dad went trick-or-treating. So wait, if Dad's 63, what year is this supposed to... Hang on. So this is supposed to be 1996. If Dad's 63, that means that he was born in 1933. So from the age of 9 to 28, Dad went trick-or-treating. age 9 to 28. I'm sorry, if a 28-year-old showed up at my door asking for candy on Halloween, I don't think I'd give him any. I think I'd be like, save some for the kids, asshole. Mom went trick-or-treating in the 1960s. Well, Mom's 38 years old, so if this is 1995, yeah, that's an appropriate age. Well, on October 15th, Mom lost her baby. What? Okay, hang on. I'm not looking at the end, I promise. Here's the date that I wrote this. Here it is. I wrote it at the end. 5/10/1996. May 10th. I was 7 years old then. Mom lost her baby. She named him Hanford. That's a terrible name. Hanford was white and had green eyes. He also had red curly hair. One night I heard a moan outside. We're just gonna move on from... Oh, I meant that Mom had her baby. Mom lost her... No, Mom had her baby. I was like, why are we going into descriptions about the child that was lost? But no, it was successfully born. No worries. It's not as dark as I thought it was. Wow. Okay, what a horrible name. Hanford. It's horrible. Hanford? Okay. Let's get into the scary stuff. One night, I heard a moan outside. It's just the wind, I thought. I opened the window. It wasn't windy. Then I heard a growl in the hall. I spun around. Two eyes glared at me in the dark. The monster crept over to me. I backed away till I bumped the wall. The eyes gleamed with evil. I turned on the light and let out a scream of horror. End of chapter. Chapter 2. Jed, I said. No answer. The light burned out. Then I noticed there was no light bulb. I was trapped. The creature reached for me. I saw that the window was open. I jumped out. I ran to the door. I unlocked the door and charged in. I raced to Mom and Dad's room. Mom, Dad, there's a monster in my room. I hollered. Mom sprang up. She was wide awake now. She just had a baby. She sprang up, though. She ran to my room, unlocked the door, and let out a scream of terror. So that was a roller coaster ride of a chapter. So, to recap, I tried to turn on the light. I thought it was my brother, Jed. But the light burned out, but there was no light bulb. Then I decided that I was trapped. But when the creature reached out for me, I jumped out the window. I ran around to the front door. That's what it meant by I ran to the door. I know I didn't specify, but I know how my mind worked back then. I ran to the front door. I unlocked the front door, went back inside, and ran to Mom and Dad's room, where I hollered at them. Mom sprang up. Apparently Dad doesn't care. She ran to my room, unlocked the door, so the door to my room is locked as a kid. That's not healthy. And let out a scream of terror. So, just illuminating any confusion there. Chapter 3. It's just a pumpkin, she said. So I guess there's just like a normal pumpkin sitting on the ground. That's what's happening. But I was so startled I couldn't move. But it glared at me, I cried. No more stories, John, Mom said. But it really did, I yelled. Try another one, Mom said, rolling her eyes at me. Don't you believe me? I cried. No, she said. You know those stories aren't true. What time is it? I asked, yawning. 2:37, Mom answered. Now go back to bed, she said. Now what's really ridiculous about this is that we saw in the first rage that Mom and Dad saw the pumpkin head walking around, threatening their family. They locked the back door, even the back door, and the attic door to keep this pumpkin head thing out. And now that her child's telling her, like, hey, this creepy thing that you'll never forget that you saw last year, it's back. She's like, nah. I wouldn't allow a pumpkin in my house after that, to be honest. Okay, as I was laying in bed, I heard Mom carrying the pumpkin back to the front porch. "Good night, sweetie," she said, and closed the door. What? Is she talking to the pumpkin? No way. Wait, no, she has to be talking to John here. "Good night, sweetie," she said. There's no specification who she's talking to. And closed the door. The front door? What? I laid in my bed for a while. Then I heard 2 knocks on my door, and then a hoarse whisper. John. John. End of chapter. I still don't know. I have to assume she was talking to John. It would be way creepier if she was talking to the pumpkin, though. Good night, sweetie? What the heck? Okay, chapter 4. John. I slowly crept to the door. 3 more knocks. I opened the door, then let out a scream of terror. Okay, so far, chapters 1, 2, and 4, that was the entire chapter, 3 sentences, have ended with the phrase scream of horror or scream of terror. The horror is just, it's pervasive. Chapter 5, there was the pumpkin. I carried the pumpkin to the front porch. When I came in, I heard an evil laugh behind me. I turned around quickly. There sat the pumpkin with Hanford. He laughed again, then ran off. What? Okay, so I think in my 7-year-old brain, at the beginning when it said there was the pumpkin, I carried the pumpkin to the front porch, just a regular pumpkin. But then when I came back in, it was laughing. I turned around, it had a full body again, and it was carrying the baby, and it ran off laughing with the baby. That's my translation. I think it's accurate. Chapter 6. I wanted to run. I really did, but I was too scared. I decided to get Jed. I saw Jed awake. Who was laughing, he asked, and where's Hanford? Put 2 and 2 together, man. Remember the pumpkin? I asked. Jed shook his head. I think I meant Jed nodded. Because there's no way Jed would forget. Well, he stole Hanford, I said. He what? Jed shouted. I nodded. Okay, so apparently I do know what nod means. I think I thought that shaking your head was synonymous with nodding. Whatever. Oh, this is terrible, he cried. Let's follow. I didn't want to argue with him in this mood. Was he in a bad mood or something? So I agreed. We ran outside. Which way did he go? I asked myself. Which? End of chapter. Chapter 7. We tried 2 ways. They didn't show the way. So we tried the 3rd way. That's very vague. It led the way to the pumpkin. We saw him carrying Hanford up a mountain. We ran speed. I guess they ran fast. The pumpkin charged toward the top. We ran faster. The pumpkin finally reached the top. So to summarize, wherever they are, they're in Dallas, Texas. Apparently there's a mountain nearby Dallas, Texas that this pumpkin head who's kidnapped a baby has scaled in its entirety. It's a mountain that he has reached the summit of. And not only that, but a 14-year-old and 17-year-old with no equipment or appropriate clothing have scaled the mountain just behind him. The pumpkin finally reached the top. He hung Hanford over a lake. So not only is this a mountain, but there's a huge drop off with a lake underneath. It's like a Lion King type of rock where there's like a cliff and he's holding the baby over the lake. He laughed an evil laugh. We weren't far from the top by now. We grabbed Hanford from the pumpkin and pushed him into the lake, and he cracked his head again. The end. Wait, we pushed him into the lake and he cracked his... What did he crack his head on then? The water? I mean, I guess that must have been a steep drop if a pumpkin's going to break open from falling off a mountain and just hitting the surface of the water. We pushed him. I mean, okay, so that was action-packed. I think I liked that more than the first one, even though the first one did have a hilarious drawing. Wow. So that was Rage 1 and 2. Let me know what you thought about those in the comments. I don't want to have this video be too long, so I know that the last one was like an hour and a half, and I want people to be able to get into this series without spending too much time on it. But yeah, those were 2 complete stories that I wrote early on. They weren't as detailed as the monster, but I do have complete stories that are that detailed that I can't wait to read to you guys in further installments of this series. Thank you guys for enjoying this, and thank you for all the positive feedback on the first one. I'm really excited to be uploading these. They're really fun to make, and I think it's fun content. I like cringing, and you guys that like the bad horror games, for example, obviously do too. All you Jeff the Killer fans out there. So yeah, let me know what you thought about today's edition of Childhood Cringe. And I have a couple ideas for the future I'd like to just throw out there real quick. One is that instead of me reading and reacting, maybe for a future video I could get my girlfriend to read the story and I can interject and react. And that way we could have like kind of a back and forth. She hasn't read all of them, so it'll be new to her too, so she'll be reacting as well. That's one idea. Another idea I had is, since I have so many unfinished stories, that what I can do is in the future when I read an unfinished story, I can read it until the point where it ends, and then I can write a new ending in the current time so that everything wraps up nicely and we have a nice contrast between the past and present day. Those are just some ideas that I had. Let me know what you think about those in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Think critically.